We are back with LJL Spring Day 11, and I have two new casters. Lovely people to bring you the last two games of the day, Infinite Dodge and Melvin Izzle. Gentlemen, welcome to the desk, my desk.
Oh, thank you for having us at your desk.
Is that being overly possessive? I don't know. I'm the host. Screw it. I'm allowed to do it.
Are you guys competing with my
Anyway,
background? I don't know if I missed
the thing
something
is,
here, but I feel
so
attacked personally.
the problem is that we like both our backgrounds are just digital, whereas you have that's why you
It's
have the
real
best
wall.
background in the
Touch
business.
the wall.
That's not a green screen. The reason that we talk about Melvin Izzle having the best background in the business is because that is a real wall, and it's a very nice wall.
I'm really in the Shadow Isles. I really am.
Yeah, no, that's authentic.
Absolutely.
Oh
1000.
right, I didn't. Okay,
So
okay.
Mordecai's
In
got a
that
draft.
case,
That's what we're thinking then. Something along those lines.
Yeah, Death Realm.
Mm.
Senna's right over there. You can't see her. She's just off camera, actually. Messing with all the mist and whatnot. It's a great sight. I wish you guys could see it, but, my camera's mounted. I can't turn it.
such a shame.
Uh,
Anyway, before we derail too far, let's reel it back in and get towards game 3, which we have today. Crest Gaming Act versus Sengoku Gaming, and we've got a bit of a civil war going on. Melvin Izzle in the bot lane, Honey versus Nemo, this V3 duo from before.
Yeah, it is my first game back this split, and I'm very excited to see these two play against each other. It was Honey and Nemo pretty much setting themselves up there with the Rascal Jester and DFM bot lanes. It was, for me, the main reason why Axis was so interesting to watch. And even as a jungler at heart, it was, I like Hoglet, but it was really about this bot lane. They were so explosive together, but apart. So far, it's 1-0 in Honey's favour. And for me, in that first matchup we actually saw, while it was the first game of the split for these teams, it was really Honey and Enti getting the better end of, I believe it was the Jinx Tom Kench matchup, getting onto Nemo's Thresh, which is something that they usually find so much comfort with.
Certainly do, and we can talk about Honey and NT so much. Turns out that Honey has been absolutely massive. Jet has been, well, the reason that Sengoku have been doing so well, Infinite, is basically that they have the Honey policy. Man's looking absolutely sane. And then Jet has been popping off as well. So both of the main carries for Sengoku are absolutely huge. And sometimes you even have a triple carry game when Paz decides that he wants to have a good day as well.
Yeah, Jet has looked really, really good, and it's a shame that Yaharong has come in and done everything I expected Jet to do a little bit better, because I think Jet maybe isn't receiving the limelight he should to an extent. But yeah, Sengoku has a couple of clear win conditions, and it's really the battle of the bot lanes. If it wasn't for a guy named Utapon, Honey and Hybrid would probably be the premier bot lane matchup in the LJL, so it's definitely going to be an exciting one here.
And talking about Hybrid, he's also had some very good performances. He's been a little bit more inconsistent than Honey, though. We can definitely say I think it is not unreasonable to say that we come into this game. I mean, Crest are 6-4. I don't think anyone expected them to be 6-4, but that is where they sit. Very impressive performance for Spring. But I don't think it's unreasonable to say that Sengoku are looking just a tad better.
Yeah, I feel like for me, Crest, it's exciting that they're on the positive half of the coin flip right now. So I'm expecting for that to start crashing back down over the next two games to even them right back out. However, if we are to see Crest bump up and actually tie the scoreline with Sengoku here, putting themselves up in that joint second kind of territory as opposed to like Sengoku single-handedly leap up there, then for me, the most important part is seeing if they can actually get these prio lanes and work on the front foot. All of last split, the thing is, Crest were a weird team. I think they're still a weird team, but they would just fall behind early and then have their best games. And it wasn't because they were picking big scaling, it wasn't anything like that, they just would. It was odd. They're a strange team, but for me right now, I need to see prio lanes so they can enable Kassin in the jungle. This is their main win con, and then that helps them get proactive with their laners and enable Hybrid in the late game to match the likes of Honey, the likes of Utapon, for their individual ADC prowess.
I'm so glad that you mentioned Kassin because, yeah, as a fellow jungle aficionado, especially the hard solo carry Graves jungle game that he had earlier in the split, it just
Was
it was a
dirty.
thing of beauty. It was absolutely disgusting, but it was a thing of beauty to watch as someone who appreciates jungle like we do. I actually don't. Are you a fellow jungle appreciator, Dodge, or do you have a different angle of focus?
I am a top laner, so I have a very adversarial relationship with the concept of the jungle.
Fair.
Their jungler spends too much time up by me, and my jungler never spends enough time. So delete jungle from the game.
Sounds like solo queue.
That's why you picked in the Shadow Realms, right? Because you're just up there with Mordekaiser and nobody can come invade you at this point.
I'm
Good
make
tech.
top lane honorable again. 1v1 me on an island, bro.
Every top laner should have Mordalt as a summoner spell. Change my
Oh,
mind.
That would be
That
just
sounds
so
like a
amazing.
horrible idea. What?
I'm
Yeah,
sure
it wouldn't
Nap
be-
and
wouldn't be
Paz would
amazing.
appreciate it.
Yeah?
Weakside kings just getting to sit and scale next to each other, you know, unbothered in their own lane, flourishing, moisturized. That would be great.
Moisturize.
I'm going to maintain the angle of distinctly sus about that, and mercifully we are in towards pick and ban, so shenanigans can cease for now. I'll hand it over to you two to bring us coverage of the game.
Thank you so much, Brackish. Here we are, third game of the night. We're right on into it. It is Sengoku versus Crest Gaming Act, and we are seeing some big picks already taken off the board. My eye immediately darts to that Graves not ever being given back to Kassin, and of course Jinx just sort of a gimme at this point. You can't let one of the biggest prio 80 carries through.
And that means the people we need to be looking at right now, back in that bot lane, the Zeri and the Aphelios. Here we go. That is Sengoku removing the Zeri, not wanting to first pick that one. But with Aphelios still on the table, do CGA just remove that? And if not, what are they going to be taking in return? Thresh is still open, looking across the rest of the map. One of the more contested junglers between these two is the Lee Sin with that Xin Zhao removed, so that might be something that we're seeing as an early red pick. With the Aphelios gone, though, it's completely open. What on earth are we looking for first? Dear God, not a Nautilus first. That would be... No, we're not going to talk about Hovers anymore until we get something serious. Thank you, Sengoku. To give you a bit of context, Dodge, and for the audience, since I haven't been around for a little while, Sengoku was the team that I dedicated my heart to last split, and they have already started to tear me apart again. That was when they fell through the floor last split, just completely dropping to the bottom of the standings from previous high expectations. Now, they have got themselves up to second place, doing very well, only dropping games to DFM and Rascal Jester. And as soon as I return, they start off with a damn Nautilus first pick?
You know, it's really a bizarre situation here, as the Hecarim will be the response for CGA, because the last time I cast Sengoku, it was against Rascal Jester. It was their only, non-DFM loss, so we might just be pulling double duty in terms of nerfing SG's chances of bringing home a W here, but they are sort of doing it to themselves with that first pick, Nautilus, and now CGA hovering the Leona. I mean, I get the top 3 hyper carries in the bot lane meta are taken off the board, but rushing right to the supports, it feels a little bit interesting here. It's not really a draft adaptation I feel like we've seen much of. Especially that Nautilus first pick.
The thing
what could the motivation possibly be here?
Exactly. The reason you'd go Nautilus over Leona there is, for me, only Kai'Sa and Samira are like two ADCs that really prefer the Nautilus over the Leona. Instead, they're going to pick up this Tristana, which, yeah, does fine, but you know that Nemo is happy to play the Leona. They've got 2 games of it down on this split so far, and it's a champion that they've been fine with historically. So I do find that particularly odd. However, one thing that this Tristana can offer in the hands of Honey is you do get that disengage ultimate for both the Leo and the Hecarim if you aren't focused down too much early. So that does mean that Honey can potentially look to 1v9 as expected, as we do get a Gwen, another one of the 1v9 champions locked in here for presumably top lane.
Yeah, that is going to be a nice, safe blind pick. Presumably, as you say, going over into the hands of Paz. Could, of course, make its way into Once's hands, but that's a little bit less common, not really in his wheelhouse from what we've seen so far. But Kaito going to get that Syndra, going to be tossing orbs all about the place as we head into the second phase of bans. So we see a solo laner most likely heading top and a solo laner almost guaranteed going mid here. How do you feel about this trade-off, and which is the bigger power pickup? I know we focus so much on getting those winning lanes across for CGA so that they can work with Kassin to bridge into the mid game, let Hybrid do his thing a little bit. Is Syndra a good first step there, Melvin?
It's definitely a good first step in theory, and the reason I have to say in theory is because we were hyping up that realistically this should be a Jet favored matchup in the mid lane. So we were looking at what angles Kaito has, and we were saying that on the LeBlanc, on Kaito's LeBlanc, they can do well, and they can actually make this a really solid lane to watch. They decide to pick Syndra and ban the LeBlanc away, so for me this is them saying, alright, looking at the champions that Jet has played this split, the Sylas, the Ryze, the Orianna, Akali, these kind of champions, all of them get outranged by the Syndra for the most part, and it means that you can play a safer lane, one where you can act a lot more controlled, and especially when you're already in to 3 champions that want to jump into you. I do like it conceptually, I just don't know how much I really prefer Kaito going away from their LeBlanc. The Syndra is still their most played, but as we are through, there have been 2 more ADC bans, and I think it's time to see what Hybrid actually has left in the pocket here.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised, I have to say, that Jhin was not one of the takeaways. I would not consider the Kai'Sa a more priority takeaway, and the Samira is an adaptation we've seen in the LPL a little bit, but that's usually paired up with the Nautilus to focus so much attention towards the marksman role and not touch the Jhin, but instead it's the Xayah. Rakan is still on the board, but you don't have a support pick left for yourself on Sengoku, so not really much of an angle to pick it away. Oh, excuse me, the Leona's already been picked. You're not Axis, you're not playing that Smite Rakan.
Well, that's what I thought you were implying there. I was a bit scared, but more than ready for it to actually be the reality there of getting that Rakan in the top lane again, but no. I think that the Xayah makes a lot of sense, because we were just talking about how you want to dive in to CGA, as Sengoku are doubling down with a Yone pickup. That is a flex between the 2 lanes, but presumably going to be going to Jet in the mid lane, you'd have to imagine. As now, final pickup for once. Don't know how I feel about the Jarvan. It gives you a lot of early playmaking ability. The Zac,
this can't be
not
real.
so much. Oh, you know, it's me coming back and Sengoku. Okay, thank God. They go back to Lee Sin. Great. Cool.
Yone is one thing, but to throw Zac in along with it would have just been
I love
too
Zac.
spicy.
I don't know if I love
Zac.
Once's Zac. That's the thing. I don't know if that's a champion I really associate with Once. I think that getting him on this kind of stylish carry champion as opposed to a more utility-based pick is definitely more of what I'm happy to see.
For sure, that Lee Sin is his most played on the season. Of course, going to be offering him a lot of comfort here as the Akali response. This is one of the more aggressive call and response drafts I think I've seen so far in my short time with the LJL, and I'm really excited to see who will be able to jockey for position and win out across these solo lanes. Yone typically thought of as very lane dominant. We sort of highlighted that we really want to see Kaito and Nap be able to push out and move with Kassin in those critical, invades or defenses of invades. And Jet definitely not going to be making it easy. Paz doing a little bit more of what Paz does, which is playing the safer sort of blind pick, weak side, top side. But these are 2 very exciting drafts. I especially love the Tristana. I'm not sure how much we've seen it in the LJL this split. It's a big exciting
I'm gonna
pick.
quickly check for you right now, because I think that might be the first time we've seen it. I definitely don't remember a Tristana this split.
Yeah,
but
I can't recall one.
if not, I'm sure we'll be told in not too long. But long story short, this is the most aggressive draft I feel like I've seen from, at very least, the Sengoku side. The CGA, this is mixed.
They're bread and butter to an extent, right?
Yeah, I would say the biggest exception for me is the fact that the Xayah kind of plays away from that a bit, but I don't mind it so much because it means you can leave Hybrid on an island, and in theory, they can play pretty safe on this bot side. If you jump in as the Tristana, the Xayah can reactively ultimate, meaning you don't get to reactivate your bomb. All of those feathers would yank back through you, and you've already jumped in, so this could get bad for Honey if they go on the aggressive. Which means that for me, it's actually more about the solo lanes and how the junglers impact there, because while there is disgusting gank set up in the bottom lane, I think that's more about the supports leaving, because it's one of those situations a bit like the, the Alistair Rel interaction. That's one I always go back to, where whoever goes in first loses. So I think that's pretty much what happens in this bottom lane as well, meaning you want to just be skedaddling, taking that pressure elsewhere, feeding it to your junglers, and trying to get those laners to the one-shot kind of territory.
It will. Production coming in to let me know that Sangchu has played a Tristana game. That is not surprising, knowing Sangchu's style, as we are right on into game here for our third game of the day, and we are seeing a nice smattering of members all across the map to guard all these jungle entrances. Point defense coming through. We'll see if any really juicy, valuable wards can get put down once hovering around that wall, maybe trying to move forward onto the Raptors and get that vision down. Jet backed him up. And looking across at the runes, it is the lethal tempo Zaya here for hybrid. It's not that lethality style. I think that's a sigh of relief for me, Melvin. How are we feeling about that one?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one, because one of the issues I was looking at CGA's comp was they're very bursty. The Hecarim, the Syndra, and to an extent the Akali have a lot of front-loaded damage. They do a lot to one target, and then after that, they kind of just float around for a little bit. Yeah, Hecarim and Akali have the Conquerors, but even then, these champions like to kill one person and then run away and come back for another later on. So having that consistent DPS of the Zaya is going to be really important. However, we've got the 3-person invade right now from Sengoku.
Yeah, Kassin just going in on that big raptor, and now it's a 3v3 around the red buff. Look at once, he's low. He still has the smite to heal up. He's ticking down from the ignite, but now Jet is on to Kassin, who will fall, but the first blood goes over to Gwen. Kaito and Nap having to kite it back, kite it out, and that's a lot of low health bars traded all around. A lot of jockeying done there, but it's Sengoku comes out on top. Kaito going to get hit by that resonating strike, but that is a very auspicious start for Sengoku, and this is sort of the fantasy that we wanted to see play out. 2 aggressive comps as the aggression does not stop. The bomb going out onto Nemo off the back of the dredge line from Enti, but 2 aggressive comps already brawling and, trading punches here right at level 1. They're not waiting to get the action flowing here.
They're really not, and that was the thing that is on the other side of the coin. CGA had primarily bursty carries at the top side, but Sengoku, with the lethal tempo and with the Conqueror, Gwen in particular, very, very good at these elongated fights, especially level 1. They have such a disgusting level 1 on the Gwen, still not been nerfed down yet on this patch, I believe. So we do get Sengoku leveraging their early power, actually stealing away the small Raptors was Jet, which means that Kassin was only level 1 after finishing that one. You can see now they've pathed over to their wolves as aggression continues.
Yeah, the dredge line into the bomb, going to chunk Nemo for most of that health bar there, going to have to retreat and let that last potion tick up. The push secured by Honey and Enti in this battle of the bot lanes that we have hyped up so much. They are definitely the ones who are taking full advantage, rising to the occasion at the moment, but plenty of game left to play. Early wave states don't mean a thing, as it can all crumble in an instant, but Tristana definitely going to help with that E to bust out these waves, push them forward, and secure yourself some good roam and back timings, as Jet down to half health here. Scatter of the Weak doesn't quite connect with the orb onto him under the turret, but Kaito is not letting up, securing the push here in the mid lane, just trying to be a nuisance and not let this Yone do much of anything, and I empathize with that wholeheartedly.
Thing is, we did see in the little rune preview we got there is a second win Yone, as you'd expect. With the Doran shield, though, that means having this corrupting potion from Kaito that you use to just get lane priority, chunk out the enemy, and threaten going for kills. It's not going to be as effective, because if you are not bursting Jet down, they are going to gradually heal. They are going to continue to tick up from that passive regen from the rune and the itemization. You'll see here, Kaito is now out of mana, nothing but cookies in the inventory, and the only way they're going to push this wave is just by standing as aggressively as humanly possible and using their health as a resource. I really like this, because it's trying to deny Jet access to the minions, but also actually keep some semblance of control over the lane.
Yeah, Enti is here just trying to sniff around and sniff out if there are any plays available to be made, but Kaito playing very respectfully, just pushing slowly at the moment as his wave does build up. Not going to connect on that Scare of the Week. Back. We're back. We live. It takes more than some simple technical issues to sync us here at the LJL OU. Maybe my tongue slips can sink us a little bit faster than the technical issues can, and we've missed some action here, Melvin. It's 3-3 in the scoreline, and we see Yone, the beneficiary of one of those, already picking up the Zeal. So definitely going to be a big, big explosive game out from the Yone. Once you start that snowball rolling, it's pretty hard to push it back up the mountain.
Yeah, and to give a minor bit of context from what I was able to catch of how this ended up happening, it was CGA making some plays onto the bottom lane and putting the Sengoku bot lane behind, but after an overzealous dives, the kill lead has been evened up. It's still a minor gold and dragon lead over to CGA, but at the end of the day, it's not massive. You can see, though, that Hybrid and Nemo are getting the better end of this bot matchup, which is something we were very curious to see if it'd be the case.
Yeah, and it speaks highly to CGA, who have been called a bit of a coin flip team as we haven't engaged here, but the Glacial Augment under the turret. Can the Nautilus actually survive? No, there's no way, there's no how, but maybe Honey can answer one back, but that explosive charge is just not going to do enough. Getting chased down, getting knocked out by the horse. Clip clopping all over that little Yordle's face, and now it is a 5-3 lead for CGA. They are going to continue to extend that bot lane lead, and we were sort of looking around that bot lane, right? Can Hybrid unfettered in this game? Can the solo lanes pick some winning matchups and survive long enough to get to that late game where Hybrid is so reliably a carry? And they didn't even have to, because Hybrid and Nemo have been able to just push the envelope, and a team that has been called kind of coin flippy, just finding some nice consistent performance from their big consistent carry down there in that bottom lane.
And it feels like I curse this team in one way or another. Sengoku just refuses to work when I'm watching. I knew this had happened. When I came back and I was getting the prep all ready to go, we're trying to fill in what's happened in the split, and I see that Sengoku are at the top. I'm like, oh great, finally. I knew that this team would work. I thought they was really cool having Honey on it too. And of course, this is what we get. We'll see if this is just a slump in the early game, or if this is going to be the trend throughout the rest of the game, but our biggest win con for CGA was get Kassin ahead and work with the laners, and that is what's happening. I'm a little worried.
Yeah, things going to the script so far. Somebody going to have to call the teams and tell them to make it look a little less obvious. Those PayPal donations coming in to get them to follow the script. But yeah, it is going to be that little bit of a gold lead coming out for CGA so far. Plenty of game yet to be played with just that first Cloud Drake in their pocket and this Ocean Dragon yet to hit the Rift in about 30 seconds. I'm curious to see who will cede priority around this one. You would have to think that with Honey and Enti being put pretty far behind, they're not going to play too hard for the second Ocean Drake. They're going to try and stall out a little bit. How do you feel on the Tristana versus Xayah late game scaling matchup? Because they're both thought to scale pretty well. Can you sort of take your foot off the gas as Sengoku in this situation and say, well, play safe, play for late? Or is it maybe just too late on that front?
I think that changing gears is a good way forward, because at the end of the day, the Tristana can outrange the Xayah as the game goes on, but that's not your issue. For a late game Tristana, you have to deal with a Syndra, you have to deal with an Akali, you have to deal with a Hecarim, and even to a lesser extent the Leona. So I don't think this game gets any easier for Honey, even with the cleanse. This I like though. Feed Paz, they can actually answer this Syndra and this Xayah if you can get them ahead off of this play.
Yeah, and it looks like, oh no, Nap using that perfect execution to perfectly get themselves out of dodge. But I quite like what Sengoku is showing here, right? We have lots of teams in this region who will show up to objective fights they have no business showing up to, and instead Sengoku says, we can't contest for this dragon. We've been put so far behind in the bot side. Let's make a cross map. Let's bring multiple members up, take that Herald to the turret, and things have maintained in, a relative equilibrium here. It's still about 2k, the gold lead for Crest Gaming, but it hasn't exploded because you've lost an ill-gotten team fight or an ill-taken team fight around the Dragon Pit when you had no business being there. So I do like to see that bit of restraint coming out from Sengoku.
And I suppose that the question should then be, how is CGA going to continue to accelerate this game? Because they do have the Hecarim and the Leona, who are exceptionally good divers, especially the Akali as well. Once they pick up that Riftmaker and start to get a bit more damage under belt, they're going to be a massive nuisance. I will give credit over to Paz, though, that this matchup is meant to go Akali's way, after I believe it is something like the level 6 mark, and it hasn't seemed to swing yet.
Yeah, we might actually have a pick out. This could be the shutdown as the Featherstorm comes out, but no, Hybrid, you flash with the Ignite will not take you
No.
down! You madman! You live as now Nemo going over the wall as well. And it's
Killed
Kassin
him.
who's been left in no man's land, but he finds one back. Can you actually do it onto once? The Onslaught of Shadows will fear him up. The Red Buff will take him out. And he flashing the Scatter of the Weak. He gets that Scuttle Crab relic buff to run away. I can't believe CGA turned that one around. Hybrid perfectly calculating his very last drop of health there.
Oh my goodness, that fight was ridiculous. And now you get the priority up at this top lane. It's not going to result in any big objectives, but I want to look at the minutiae of this play. It looks so good from Jet and Enti. You get the massive wombo combo onto 2, but because of the Yone ult pulls slightly, you actually see that once hit the Q onto the Leona, not the Xayah. Hybrid would be dead in this situation, then they could all turn damage. Watch this right here though. When Jet snaps back, he's killed because Kassin times the Q to reap him in midair, chopping them down. And once again, the confidence from Kassin, they actually face away knowing they'll get him with this Q, and then chase down into Enti. While they aren't able to pick that up, it's still a massively favoured play for CGA, with all of the resources going on the main man in the jungle.
It was such a close series of plays. The margins were so tight there, but Kassin for sure putting on a clinic to get it done. As we see the turret plates taken are about equal, so no big advantage gained either way there. But I think Middlecott will be happy to know that the coin has appeared to land head side up, at least today for CGA. They seem to be playing at their limits, especially Kassin, definitely showing off and having a great time so far. The 3k gold lead will be the result of that. 2 dragons in the back pocket as well, with the Mountain Soul to be played for. But we can't get complacent about CGA's lead. That looked to be a good pick out until just a couple of narrow things went wrong for Sengoku. So I'm sure there's still room for them to come back here. I'm just not quite sure where it would be. What do you think is sort of the they could take back up the mountain, so to speak?
Well, the thing is, bounties have just become enabled, so for me, it's about trying to play a wide map right here and fight with minor leads, like 2-on-1, 3-on-2, these kind of numbers. You don't want to take a fair fight against CGA because their wallets are too superior, particularly if Kassin is there. If you can just fight onto Nap with 2 people, or just fight onto the bot lane like we had there with 3, those are the fights I need to keep seeing. If you let the tempo slip away now, CGA with this Rift Herald, with the Baron spawning in 4 minutes, will be able to threaten a very clean endgame, which is worrying. You need to keep the game scrappy, and the fact that CGA are going to pick up this Herald means that they're likely going to be able to just chuck it down mid, get that Prio for Dragon, and then suddenly we're 5 minutes away from the Mountain Soul, which is going to pretty much turn Sengoku off this game, versus the Baron, which also would turn Sengoku off this game. So they need to look for something ASAP.
Yeah, they cannot afford to wait, as it's just 15 seconds before this Mountain Drake does emerge onto Summoner's Rift and present himself for the taking by one of these teams. And there's not a lot of deep vision in the enemy jungle. In fact, none at all right now for Crest Gaming. That is one bit of comfort that Sengoku can take. But securing the mid lane priority allows Nemo to move up, get that stealth ward down, and now they will kite towards the side they have vision on. Paz hovering around the back of the wall, Enti and Honey swinging around, but can they win a fair fight around the Drake? The mid laners are not present. Kaseni's too good. He smites it away. He will not lose the burger flip.
Valiant attempt from once, but it was really well done, like you say, from CGA, blocking any access for the Lee Q to hit the dragon. It just became raw smite versus smite plus Hecarim Q. Kassin now chucking down that Rift Herald. Enti,
I don't think you wanted to take that Dredgeline, buddy, as the TP is the immediate response. The Herald will crash. Jet trying to find something onto Kaido here will get a lot of damage out. The Echo out from that Soul Unbound E will do even more in the back end of the trade. So Kaido found out, but not under any real threat there. Things maintain the status quo, and that status quo for the past few minutes has been that 3k gold lead. And now there's a soul point as well. He's creeping around onto Honey, the Solar Flare, into the immediate cleanse. They actually answer one back. That is Nemo falling. They get the tier 1, but Nap, can you find your way out? No, you cannot. You have fallen. So that is 2 for nothing, except the tier 1 turret in mid lane, which is a pretty important turret to take. But signs of life from Sengoku.
The thing is, you don't kill anybody with a shutdown. I don't think Nemo had one, but everybody else that is still alive does. So yes, you're going to be happy with that Sengoku, but the thing is, it unlocks the map more, and we've talked so much about CJ having amazing pick potential with this Syndrome, with the Leona, etc. It was a really good kick by once, though. I will definitely give them that. As we see now, the wide map is starting to happen again. 1-3-1, Sengoku wants to be looking for, because we saw up in the side lane there that it was actually Jet doing very well. But keep your eye on once here. This kick is so good and so important for stopping it just being a decisive dive into taking a second tower. And the thing is about how this is played, it's just CGA going too far, and when they don't get the initial kill, and Kassin is suddenly in no man's land, they have to decide, do we escort the Hecarim out and finish the tower, or do we commit to the fight? They go for the first answer, which I think was the safer one, keeps them still in the driving seat, but maintaining that 2k gold lead. Not much else beyond the mountain sole point for them that is really defining the difference this game.
Nemo's gone so deep to try and pick out Jet, but now he will be the one who is knocked up and knocked around. Now the fate sealed across multiple members. Damage is pretty good. Empty is here on the flank. The Glacial Augment out. Honey free hitting. Kassin can't quite get on him. That's 2 down. That's Hybrid over the wall. But can they answer round 1? Yes, they can. Now Kassin ticking so low, the horse will have to gallop away, but the Resonating Strike does connect. Once will take it. The Sonic Wave forward. That is just going to be his death. The result, though, and Honey will get kited out by Hybrid. He backs it up. Once again, he's styling in this game. Every time you think you have this guy, he just gets away. And now Nap has found Jet. He's sitting on that Q2, but he just tries to find some sort of escape with it, trying to sustain off the lane. But Kassin doesn't want to have that. Dodges out. We'll get the damage down. We'll find the kill for Nap. PGA somehow turning around the most dire situations again.
Heart-wrenching. This is heart-wrenching to watch. And it all starts from Nemo overextending. But keep your eye on the right here. It's actually the bot lane from Sengoku that really closes off all the options here for CGA. This is a great, just glacial path right here that is put down by Enti to seal off any escape. But the Flash is committed to get out. Very good timing on the Xayah E. And watch this. It's actually Kassin dodging, and so the Resonating Strike hits the Xayah. But because the Exhausters come through, not enough damage for them to finish anybody. And this hurts me. This hurts. Honey doesn't get the last auto attack to blow off the bomb, because if they do, then they get to jump onto Hybrid. Both dies. The game is just back in Sengoku's favor. And then Jet, they're trapped in no man's land. Oh, it's a horror show. It's exactly what I expected from Sengoku, but I never wanted to imagine.
Yeah, this is a big match in terms of standing implications of what as well. We have to note these two teams will be tied in the standings, and it sort of muddies the picture. We've hoped with DFM looking so dominant, somebody could rise above the throng, rise through the soup to the surface to pose themselves as the big challengers, whether that would be Sengoku or Rascal Jester. But CGA picking up the win here sort of starts to dampen that image that we might have of Sengoku as the prodigal son, of the platonic ideal of a challenger to DFM. It just sort of muddies the picture below DFM even more, as Jet will answer back at tier 2. That's pretty big. A big old gold pinata are those tier 2s. A nice little cash infusion for the Yone. But the lead remains more or less stagnant here, and with 15 seconds to go on the Soul Drake for CGA, I think they are bing chilling here, Melvin.
I like this. I like this a lot. When you do have the Yone and an ADC, you can always threaten the Baron. I think this is something you need to be doing. CGA committed so much to just getting onto that bottom side, but you can see Sengoku still has wards scattered around, so they know when CGA are actually trying to set up around the objective. Now, everybody's pretty much out of vision at this point in the game. A lot of lurking around, no perfect information for either team, as it looks like CGA have won this maneuver right here. They are going to be able to get onto this soul point for free. I think that it is just completely secured. There's nothing that Sengoku can do, and they do not even get to capture the Baron. This is going to get very rough, because every fight up to this point that has looked Sengoku favored has ended with a CGA member being 100, 200, a sliver of HP. That Mountain Soul adds even more buffer room, so you do not get that reliability of finishing the fight. I think that Sengoku are going to be in a completely dire position right here. If Paz doesn't get something ridiculous done on the side lane, or if we don't see Jet getting a miracle ultimate, this game should be cut and dry for CGA.
Yeah, they have all the advantage to play through as of right now, and Kassin has been the forefront of it all. Now this Baron is the big objective left on the map. We should point out, of course, there are objective bounties yet to be taken to sort of equalize the gold side of things for Sengoku, especially on that Baron, but it's going to be so hard to find an angle. You had your best chance to try and take a cross map there as the Soul Dragon spawned, and now it can sort of feel paralytic, right, for Sengoku, stuck between a rock and a hard place here, as once we'll just mosey on up to that river to try and get a little bit of forward vision down. But Nemo going to have a lot of free room moving together with Kassin as this two-man unit to clear some of this out. And it's just sort of waiting for that other shoe to drop. If you're Sengoku, you don't want to be too testy, you don't want to be too forward. They're moving towards the pit. Pink is here, once we'll have to clear it out, but I think CGA is more than ready to take this challenge on.
Oh, it's dangerous. You don't ever want to get picked off there as the jungler. Do actually have the Maw coming out from once over here, so they do survive the burst from the solo lane as a CGA, but if it's ever the Hecarim or the Xayah onto them, then they are going to melt. As once again, playing a wide map, Sengoku need to keep doing this. They need to play these guerrilla tactics because you can't get in a straight up 5v5 with CGA if you do not have a miracle engage to start it off. It was actually this kind of position earlier on that we saw. It was Jet and NT have continuously made plays with their ultimates over here. If we could get more of that kind of action, that's how you could get back in the game. You do have pick tools, and you're talking about pinatas in the towers. Look at Hybrid. They are just walking around with 1,000 gold hanging from their pocket. This is the person you need to be looking for, but it's a Xayah with Gale Force stopwatch.
There's just so many defensive tools for Hybrid, who has looked so untouchable in this game. Every time they were near the edge of that dark abyss, just able to pull it back and look so stylish while doing it. It really does feel like a tall task. Thankfully, though, as you point out, Sengoku has been able to sort of cast a wide net, get waves pushed out, and retreat without getting picked off in the side lane. It's so hard to play from behind, and especially when you're trying to cover so much distance with so little map control, to not overexpose yourselves. But they haven't given away lots of free picks since that early game has sort of moved out of lane phase and into this more free roaming style for them. So that is something to be commended. It's just the team fights have not been going their way when they've been trying to make these aggressive pickouts. The turnaround from CGA has been very, very good as we've sort of entered the lull state here. These teams seem to be happy to just handshake and ping pong waves for now. I'd like to see CGA threaten this Baron a little bit more here.
The ward that Sengoku's just lurking on is getting so much value. Here's the TP.
Yeah, they listened to me. They have gone right on in. Paz into the stopwatch now. Jet snapping all the way back right into Naps. Waiting arms. The shield bell proc now into the stopwatch. It will be Paz to fall. It will be Jet right on next, who's ticking down. No, not quite. He flashes out the shield from once on the Lee Sin, but it's not enough. You can't escape the ninja. Akali takes him down, and now CGA will finally claim the prize they've been dancing around for so long. Over to the Baron they go, going to be suiting themselves up with that purple tuxedo.
And it's so important to do this now because the Elder is going to be spawned. There we go. We just get the timer pop up in 2 minutes time. So this Baron will carry over throughout that duration. And it was all off of this one ward. Look where Paz and Once are. They know, CGA know exactly where Sengoku are, so there is no risk for Nemo doing this. He's very tanky with the Aftershock, no Glacial Gaming here. The follow-up 3-person Fear. Honey does a nice bit of repositioning to try and back up their mid laner in Jet, but it doesn't do anything. Look at this combo. It's just too much for Sengoku to handle, and they're left running. And at this point, it's beyond dire. You don't get the option for a wombo combo because you're behind in gold, you can't get your vision coverage, and that was where it fell apart. If you are sitting on a ward, it's just a pick comp, guys! There's a Syndra and a Leona. That's the best thing in the world for them. If you are on a ward and they know it, you die.
Yeah, and Paz sort of serving up his entire team as that Zenith Blade followed him so well into the heart of multiple members. This first inhib will be cracked in the mid lane. Once connects on that Sonic Wave, but I don't think he wants to take the Resonating Strike as Nemo is unflustered and unbothered. So much control around this red quadrant jungle for Sengoku. For the side of CGA to get lots of vision down ahead of the Elder, have so much control, and just feel really, really comfortable. And you have to see Sengoku just sort of group up and buddy system this. They cannot move independently, or they will just get picked out over and over again. Trying to threaten some mid lane priority, trying to threaten this tier 1, but look at the members they have here. Nap and Kaido going to be more than enough to get rid of that minion wave, and with their Baron threaten oh so much in return. And 12 seconds to go on this Elder buff. Sengoku getting
I'm
getting
worried.
some of those wards out. But there's one deep
Look at
stealth ward left.
stopwatches. Keep an eye on stopwatches right here. This is what we need to see, because when the Elder goes down, whichever team has it, one of the few ways you can avoid that laser beam is going into a stopwatch. So keep your eyes right now. I believe it was 3 of the members of CGA, top, mid, and potentially ADC as well. I haven't seen them use it. Keep your eyes out right now. See if Woods can get the steal.
Yeah, Paz is positioning, gesturing, bluffing a little bit perhaps. Jet has the deep flank, but I do believe they know they're there. Kassin moving up. Nap taking that shuriken flip backwards. The Solar Flare not going to find the sun, but will find the Slow the Fate. Sealed is going to be blocked off. No escape for Jet, but is it the Hecarim who may be overextended? Kassin ticking oh so low, but Nemo in the end is the one who collects it. Now Nap taking that shuriken flip back in. Enti is so thin, so untanky with this Glacial Augment Nautilus, but he escaped. Honey escapes once, and Paz now left to dance around the dragon all over again, but I don't think that's a dance they can afford to take right now. Hybrid chasing through, chasing them off, getting these feathers down into the circle of Paz, going to find the kill. No fear with that gale force, and now this Elder buff is wide open. The hunting licenses have been acquired, and they are ready to strap a laser beam dragon to the hood of their car.
And there's
Is that
no
too
way to get
American
in.
of a reference for our
I liked it still, but I don't think that there's much that can be done to stop that laser beam car, because once, like you see, they're getting denied away from Nap. This is going to be the Elder. This should be the game. I know it's CGA, but come on now. There's not much you can really do to lose from this position.
double
You've
Uber
got-
buffs.
Oh, it's disgusting. Like, the Baron will wear off, but you've already done the damage you need. You broke open the base. You actually have a decent siege with the Syndra, and the fact you can dive with so many members, so there's not much you can really do from Sengoku. And look at this, it was actually the pivot. They baited out the dragon, and it was just the tag from the ultimate. Getting in the way there means that there's no way for Jet to escape. And this was Kassin buying a lot of time, and then just retreating to their team, because you have so much area control. Your allies can just zone off so hard. And it's very close right here. Sengoku get out pretty much as low as you can get, you know, finally getting lucky in this game for once, but isn't going to be enough as now they just need to avoid CGA. There is no way you can take a good fight at this point.
Yeah, the lane assignment as it stands, it will be Nap in that mid lane with the supers, and the rest of the CGA squad up here pushing down another tier 2, just continuing to balloon this gold lead that is standing at about 8k right now. And it just feels so passive for the side of Sengoku, but what can they really do here? They have to watch their base just sort of crumble in front of them, as Nemo has no reservations about stepping forward and looking for the aggressive Zenith Blade. This will be another inhib ticking down in just a moment. 2 lanes of supers now soon to be streaming on down. They're on to the Nexus turrets. The Solar Flare does not connect, but the Sonic Wave does. Where can the moment be found once? Can you do anything here? It will be Nexus turret number 1 already out. Sengoku, you can't just sit passively and wait for your deaths to kick back. Nap, though, is not the target that you can really pick out. So much mobility, so much capability to escape, because Sin will fall in the end, but the second Nexus turret will be the trade. Now Jet into the GA, but no escape. Just a delaying of the inevitable. Let's look at Nap going so deep under the fountain, then going golden hybrid. Can you find the execute? They're just playing with their food. The Nexus will fall so shortly. Wow, hybrid really just wants to continue to style here, but you're not going to find it. You will find the win, however, to tie up the standings. CGA and SG now both sitting at that 7-4 mark, and those coin flips looked real good in this one.
Tying up with Burning Core now, this is going to be extremely narrow, especially considering if Rascal Jester give us an upset next game, then we could have a 4-way tie for second place potentially, which is terrifying to think about. There is no true second juggernaut in our league just yet. Everybody is punching each other on even footing. Well played by CGA. It's Sengoku, I don't know, man. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it with Brackish in a minute, please.
Yeah, well, we're going to need to go over this one with a fine-tooth comb to really get all of the particulars out. But that will be, of course, after a short break. We will be heading back to the desk for the last, we have a breakdown, then the last game of the day, of course, here on the LJLU, and that's going to be a big one. It's DFM versus RJ. Right after the breakdown, right after a break. Be right back.
Welcome back to the analyst desk after Crest Gaming at... Ooh, am I muted? Oh, I thought I was muted. Good job. I've been having a couple of technical issues on my end, so apologies for that. Welcome back to the analyst desk after Crest Gaming at take down Sengoku Gaming in a very impressive performance. A certain Jack Middlecott Davis was very happy about that result.
Yeah, there's only one Jack D that I can rely on after a Sengoku game, and I feel like I'm going to need it in spades. Coming back to a really promising team, doing well, peaking at the top of the standings. You can see the mountain. The honey is going to cleanse my throat and get rid of this cold. But no, I am betrayed once again by a Nautilus first pick of all things.
That was so... We were all... Well, I mean, you were obviously there. You couldn't hear me, but my response was also one of complete befuddlement. And
Yeah.
I just don't get the logic behind it.
I'm meant to be color caster, but I'll be honest with you, it was a weird one. I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, the logic that I had was because this is Nemo's most played champion at this point, up there with the Thresh for the split, that maybe it was a takeaway. And we can see right now on the stream, we got the level 1, and this was really clever by Sengoku, because you have Jet go disrupt the Hecarim, it denies them getting level 2, he's one of the most vulnerable junglers in the early game because they don't take flash, so you can always look for kills like this. It's a good response from CGA, but your level 1s are nowhere close to that of Sengoku's, so this is always going to go in Sengoku's favor, it's just a matter of by how much. And again, this Nautilus pick, it scares me, because the only logic I could see behind it was, okay, we're banning away the OP ADs, and then we're going to take this Naut Triss lane that's going to be our kill threat. But throughout the game, this happened over and over again, where somebody would get out on a sliver of HP, and it doesn't mean it's necessarily an issue with the plan, but execution and the falling behind early just really killed any momentum this comp could have got.
On that play, I just realized that it's the Twin Dagger, like the Omnivamp from the Twin Dagger lifesteal, or the Omnivamp from the Twin Daggers from Hybrid that keeps him alive through the Ignite. Like the tiniest little bump of health keeps him alive. I want to say that was sub 5 health he survived that play on.
It's not a rarity.
Is
It
that even
happened over and
predictable,
over.
or was that lucky? Like, is that just extremely lucky, or is that actually something
At the
you
end
can
of the day,
predict?
you have to play the actual engagement properly. And things like this right here with Kassin not turning back to try to hit, running away so Honey doesn't get the reset with the jump. Very nicely done. There were constant plays like that where CGA, much to my chagrin, did perform quite well. Things like this, Kassin was having a game of his life right here. This was a killer game on the Hecarim. And I feel like
This
a
was
lot of
the
credit
man who
has
was
to go
shut
to him.
down.
Yeah, definitely. They were invaded level 1. They were put behind, but they just farmed up, did so well on this pick, and then became the monster that we saw throughout the rest of it.
And we were talking. I mean, talk about Kassin. They have created a monster because he has just been destroying in so many of these games. This jungle threat, moving around the map, getting kills for himself, and as I said in the previous game, a rising tide lifts all ships. And especially if that tide is the jungler, the one who is designed specifically to get advantages and then funnel that into the rest of his team.
Yeah, it was a hero performance from Kassin across the board, and it's what can't this guy do, right? You see the Graves, and you see like
Yeah.
the hard carry pop off. You see the utility, more minded pick of the Hecarim, and he's all over the place. CGA, I don't want to start to like lean into the gambler's fallacy, right? I know this team is a coin flip, but it sort of feels like when they're on this hot streak, they're unstoppable. And I never expected my poor boys over at Sengoku to fall in this matchup,
I did.
but it kind of feels like when they're on the winning side of these spurs that they go on, you really can't bet against them. And it was, how else can you explain one health Tristana over and or rather Zaya over and
Well,
over and over again? It's like there's some sort of divine intervention coming through for CGA without Kale in the game, which is a perfectly wonderful thing to come through for them. So it was a very interesting game. I would say it was of a higher quality than V3 earlier today. That is for sure. If we're talking
Yeah.
about Fiesta games, definitely more entertaining League of Legends than game number 1 on the day.
Okay.
I think that's something that can easily be agreed.
I am not disheveled after that game. That's the main distinction I want to make. Sengoku hasn't completely ruined my hope. I just hope that that's the only time I ever see Nautilus first pick in a draft for the rest of my days. But as long as that provides to be the case, then they still mechanically perform well. There was some good decision making coming out, particularly from Jet and Enti to try and snowball themselves back into it. I'm gonna take some marks off of them. They're not clearly the second best team in the region right now, but they definitely still have the makings of it. CGA, like you say though, when they're on a tear like this, even last split, they were always just one of those teams that you couldn't predict against them, because you could always be surprised. They would always find a way to upset and have the best game of their life in the worst circumstances. And vice versa, they could always play against the worst team and have the worst game of their lives. So this is something that we'll need to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the split, because these two teams, as we crest over the halfway point, have now evened themselves up and left us asking more questions than we had at the start of the day.
Yeah,
And
certainly muddies the water around that second place situation.
this is the crazy thing about the LJL at the moment. Obviously, yeah, cool. We have DFM being an absolute titan. We have V3, unfortunately, being a bit of a non-starter. But every other team is a question mark to some extent. Like there's no set in stone second best team, or even like the top 5 of standings come the end of the season. Even if things maintain along similar trends, it's going to be ridiculously hard to predict who takes which of those spots.
Absolutely.
Especially with the Axis and Hawks game we saw earlier, right?
Yeah.
Neither of them was able to. Now they're in the same spot. They weren't able to prove any clear demarcation between themselves either. So it's just about halfway through the split, more or less perfectly, and things aren't getting any more clear other than DFM's great and V3 is not so great.
Well, we'll see if that trend continues. We're going to jump to a break, but after this, we have potentially an absolute titan of a matchup. The as yet undefeated DFM take on Rascal Jester in what could be the ultimate spoiler game. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.